Hi everyone, my name's Chris Quinlan. Welcome to Melbourne Musos. Hey! Oh, what a week, eh? Oh, Charlie Watts, okay. Okay. Another tribute to another wonderful drummer. Oh, my Lord. Every couple of weeks, someone drops off the perch, eh? So what it is tonight is a tribute to dear Charlie Watts of the Rolling Stones, one of the only people, I mean, Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, and Charlie Watts are the only three people who are on every album. And there you go. You had a lot of great people in between, but they're the big three, and Charlie Watts has left us. I've got everything here. I've got my notes. I'm going to try and do a couple of things for you and all that. He'd Blanchett the size of Doris. The dear man just had a 4-piece scratch. And I suppose that's something that I'll get straight into, is just celebrate his drumming. And he was a gentleman, and a well-dressed gentleman, you know, really dapper gent. And what it is one of the things that I'll get into straight away is some of the sounds and things. The first thing you've got to have a laugh at, he's got a china for a crash up when he's playing. So it's like... Good old china. Good old china plate. There you go. Right there. Mine's a bit bigger. I've taken that from there, and away we go. And yeah, it's a wonderful thing. And for his ride cymbal, he had a flat ride. I had a flat ride. I gave it to my friend Kevin Denali. If you're watching, I don't think you're even on Facebook, but he's got my flat ride. And Charlie Watts had a flat ride there, so, you know, like... So I'm just getting into the equipment and getting the sounds, and I'm going to take you through everything that dear man did. And what it is there's that. He also had a swish on the side. I used to have a swish, but now I have this 22-inch crash ride, which is very similar to a swish. What a swish cymbal is a China ride, if you like. I do have a swish in the other room, but it doesn't have the sound that Charlie Watts's swish had, in the sense that Charlie Watts's swish cymbal had rivets in it. So does this one. So that's why I left it there. He used to say, good for pianos. Good for pianos. Always remember that dear Charlie Watts, you could almost say he's a jazz drummer playing in a rock band. And he has a bit of fun with that. And that's where I'd like to start. I'll get into his biography and everything in a minute, but I'll just get a few. It's a drum show. I'll get into that first. The first thing you want to know is the sticking of right, left, right. Okay, one of the main things that you see with Charlie Watts so often. He didn't start with it, but it's a little bit like Jeff Beck. He used to play with a pick, and then at some point he put the pick down and just play with his fingers. And at some point Charlie Watts decided to take the hi-hat out when he played the snare. So it was like right, left, right. So right, left, right. You'd always see him. It's just so beautiful to watch. So I remember seeing it. What's he doing there? He never used to do that. What's going on? Never used to do it in the 60s and early 70s or something. All of a sudden, you know, so it's almost like a linear thing, but it isn't. You know, that kind of thing. But anyway, it's just this. So right, left, right. That's all it is. One and two, and one and two, and one and two, and one and two. Put into a rock beat. That's why it was the engine. They called him the engine of the Stones. That's what it is. Now, if I'm going to get into stylistic things, and if I go down the track of Charlie Watts being a jazz drummer in a rock band, there's two feels that you need to know if you're going to play jazz. There's the two feel and the four feel. Now, the funny thing about it is when you're listening to Charlie Watts play, you actually sort of hear it. There's the two feel. Now we're going to add the aforementioned right, right, left, right. I'm not going to sing tonight. Maybe a little. I nearly went straight into painted black there. Okay, so what it is there's that. When you're doing it with a four feel, 1, 2, 3, 4, right, both, right, both. Same thing. When you're hearing things like, this one. Get off of my cloud. Hey! Get off my cloud. Good old China, and China plate, and there you go. And that's early on, so you were still playing normally if you wanted to think of it like that. And that's what you can do, you see. So one of the things about Charlie Watts and how he was able to do what he did with the Stones for so long, I mean, I've spent my whole life with him there somewhere, that kind of thing. A lot of people get a bit surprised when I say, I'm a Stones fan. You're an everything fan. You have to be, you have to be an everything fan. I just love all music. It's not like I'm just a prog dude and all that sort of business and all that. You get what you need for the music that you're playing. And so if you're going to play Zappa, you're going to need a bigger kit for all the notes and things. But whenever I go out and gig, I'm only ever taking out a 5-piece kit. And Doris is, set in concrete down there somewhere, barely moves, kind of thing. But what goes on is that there's always the 5-piece inside here, or in this case with dear Charlie Watts, a 4-piece with that beautiful Gretsch, late 50s Gretsch kit that he had for so long. There's a story on YouTube about that too. He just played it one day and went, I need this, thanks very much. And there it is. So what happens is one of the things about Charlie Watts being called the engine of the band is that aforementioned being able to just lay down that groove, if you want. And really it does come from that jazz kind of thing. He swung. And one of the things about jazz, even Bill Ward I talk about with Sabbath, he was a jazz drummer. And they ended up in a first heavy metal band, mate, and all that. So what happens is you got to swing. And what starts to happen is if you're going to do a jazz rhythm, like 1, 2, 3, 4 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, by its very definition, jazz is a cut time kind of style. Okay? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So what happens is, what I'm doing there was I started off with jazz, but then I threw in a rock beat. And because you've got that hi-hat 2 and 4, like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, cut time, halve it down, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and even it out. That is the secret weapon, if you will, that Charlie Watts carried all through. You just swung, swang. And what it is he's passed away at 80 years old, and just by that, it's a celebration, really. I mean, what a charmed life, and what a dear gentleman he was. He wasn't into any of the Keith Richards naughty business with Mick and all that. The famous story was when the Stones stayed for a little while at the old mansion with our Hugh. He barricaded himself in the games room, didn't want to come out, and he's just a dapper gent. That's what it is. You've got to take your hat off to him, tip of the hat. So there it is. There's a little bit about jazz. There's what he's done. His cymbals, as I said, China cymbal up here, like that quirky little. Isn't it beautiful? That kind of thing there. No frills, but everything that he did was perfect. And of course, some of the songs that he did, like I just did Get Off of My Cloud, right? So you got that. So on. And then when it goes into the chorus, it's a soul beat. Hey, you, get off of my cloud. Bam, bam, ba-do-do-do-do. Bam, 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 beep, bum, 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 bum. And then when you're doing soul beat, black. I love that. It's one of my favourite Stones songs. You know, like I sort of talk about this in pairs a little bit. And when in the 60s, it was really just the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and then everyone else, really. And then the Beatles split up in 1970, and by then Led Zeppelin had started. So it was the Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin, or Led Zeppelin and the Rolling Stones. And the funny thing about that is that you'd get all the music papers, and Led Zeppelin would get their Guinness Book of Records for the most people attending just a one-band concert, not like Woodstock, but just turning up for one band. And then the next year, Rolling Stones would go on tour and break it by about 200 people. And then Led Zepp came back in 75 and broke that by 200. And it was like, where are you going? You know, that kind of thing. And that was in the 70s. And when we're talking about drummers themselves, as far as pairs, I always thought of Charlie Watts paired with Ringo. I always thought of Keith Moon paired with Ginger Baker. I always thought of John Bonham paired with Ian Pace. They were of a type and all that. And so when I was coming up, you know, in the 60s, and what it was, you know, are you a Beatles guy or a Rolling Stones guy? Rolling Stones was the dirty band. Mum liked the Beatles because they did Yellow Submarine, so, you know, we'd sing that in kinder. You wouldn't sing Can't Get No Satisfaction, you know. But I tried. Not really. But what it is Charlie Watts. Always the dapper, always smiling. Well, smiling, you know, just looking. You could sit on that all night, really. There you go. One of the things that he does is, of course, there's the fill-ins and all of that, but they're all fairly straight ahead. But he's subtle. And what it is like if you take something like Gimme Shelter, it's not so much fill-in city or anything like that. you'd have that kind of, how'd you put it? It just felt solid, you know. Hear that? So it's got that really, it had that little sticking going, you know, sort of thing. I crap on about paradiddles all the time, but I mean, you know, you get that kind of thing with him, and it's like, oh wow, he's got that little quirky little thing, and it's just always there, you know, that sort of business. So that's that bit, and there you go. All right, I'm going to read about his life a little bit. I have it here. All right, okay, here we go. Charles Robert Watts. 2nd of June 1941 to the 24th of August 2021. Oh, I was just about to go to bed. I stay up a little bit late. I'm like afternoon shift. I start teaching when the poppets used to come home from school. Now when they get off of Zoom or whatever it is that they've got. And it was the last thing I saw. I just went ching, 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 put the thing. I went, what? And that was it. You know, what just happened? He's just, we all heard the thing that he wasn't doing the latest tour, but it seemed like medical procedure. Anyway, there you go. So I was just like, bang. So, shit week, hey? For many reasons. So there you go. Anyway, so 2nd of June 1941 to the 24th of August 2021. Just passed. Was an English musician who achieved international fame as the drummer of the Rolling Stones from 1963 until he passed away. One of the band's core members, Watts, alongside lead vocalist and frontman Mick Jagger and guitarist Keith Richards, were the only members of the band to perform on all of their studio albums. He cited jazz as a major influence on his drumming style. Originally trained as a graphic artist, Watts developed an interest in jazz at a young age and joined the band Blues Incorporated. He also started playing drums in London's rhythm and blues clubs, where he met future bandmates Jagger, Richards and Brian Jones. In January 1963, he left Blues Incorporated and joined the Rolling Stones as drummer, while doubling as a designer of their record sleeves and tour stages. Little known fact, he was part designer of some of those gigantic stages that they would perform on. Watts' first public appearance as a permanent member was in February 1963, and he remained with the group until his passing, 58 years later, last Wednesday. Aside from his career with the Rolling Stones, Watts toured with his own group, the Charlie Watts Quintet, and appeared in London at Ronnie Scott's Jazz Club with the Charlie Watts Tentet. There it is. Okay, so that's all that business there. Early life, Charles Robert Watts was born at the University College Hospital in Bloomsbury, London, to Charles Richard Watts, a lorry driver for the London Midland and Scottish Railway, and wife Lillian Charlotte Eves, who had been a factory worker. He had a sister, Linda. There you go. And it just keeps on going. I'm reading straight off of Wikipedia, so please go and read it up. And there it is there. He's got so much stuff. It just keeps on going. I do the whole show just reading Wikipedia, you know, sort of thing. But personal life and public image. On the 14th of October 1964, Watts married Shirley Ann Shepherd, whom he had met before the band became successful. The couple had one daughter, Serafina, born in March 1968, who in turn gave birth to Watts' only grandchild, a girl named Charlotte. They remained married until his passing, and he was true to her the whole way through. He would just let Mick and Keith go off, and he'd... one of the funny things was he'd go into the hotel room, because he missed the family so much. He would sit down and it just became a thing for him to sketch whatever hotel room he was in, sort of thing. Just a quirky little thing. He'd buy all these cars, but he didn't drive, so he just sat in them. If you got the money, okay, there you go. And the other thing too was with his wife, he had horses, did horses and things like that. So he was very, and impeccably dressed all the time. He won some kind of award for that. Best dressed gent, best dressed debonair gent, and all that stuff. And he really was. He was just fantastic. So, I mean, a couple of weeks ago I did a tribute to Joey Jordanson. That was really, really sad because he died, so in pain and had that awful affliction and that he had. But Charlie Watts, he just lived and he was a perfect gentleman. So it's more of a celebration. There you go. So there it is. Now I'm going to go over a couple of things. I'm already there. I've already done my 25 and I want to get all of it on to Channel 31, so I don't want to muck around too much. I don't want to chop out a single second, and I do want to add a few things in the mix later on with a few guests and all that, with some beautiful people that I had the pleasure of working with online last year, 2020, COVID year one. And what happens is, what I just want to talk about a little bit now is that jazz thing. If you want to get to know Charlie Watts and how he plays and how he's able to swing, you're going to have to go down the jazz rabbit hole a little bit, and it goes back to the start of the thing. Get to know your two feel. Put in your right, left, right. Keith would come around, they'd be going like that, like, rah, 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 and Mick, Charlie's playing great tonight, isn't he? Wah! And he'd turn around and have a little look at him on stage, he's just there. There you go. And then the two feel, right? Now, that's fantastic for when they were getting into... They're holding out so long. They ain't been miss you. Up the dam, up a beat a dam. Miss you. Where a beat a China is a crash. Charlie, come on now. One of the things you want to also check out too is the fact that Charlie Watts always thought of himself as a jazz drummer. He just loved jazz and all that. That when he went off and did some of those things with the Charlie Watts Tentet and quintet and all that, I just did miss you. But go and check out a YouTube thing. I like when I researched the show, I had a look at it. If it ain't got that swing on YouTube, and it's set in Paris, but it's a jazz waltz, right? He starts off with brushes. Oh, you know me and brushes. I'm a brush tragic. So you get... And he's doing a jazz waltz, right? And I've been holding out so long. Then I'm miss you. I'm doing a little bit of a hemiola there, in the sense that what I'm actually doing is with the hi-hat, I'm sort of playing 2 and 4. If it was 4/4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, and a nice little lilting thing is imply 3 over the top. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And of course he changes to sticks, and go check it out, it's wonderful. And you get that Swish. There you have it. Miss You as a Jazz Waltz, you know, Charlie. There you go. So there it is there. That went very, very quickly because of this great man. I'll read a little bit more before I go. And let's just talk about a few different things. Touring band relationships. Watts expressed a love-hate attitude towards touring, stating in 2003 that he loved playing with Keith and the band, but wasn't interested in being a pop idol sitting there with girls screaming. In 1989, the Rolling Stones were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Watts did not attend. There you go. He did get ill in the mid-1980s. Watts' previously moderate use of alcohol and became problematic. They were my way of dealing with family problems, he said. I think it was a midlife crisis. All I know is that I became totally another person around 1983 and came out of it about 1986. I nearly lost my wife and everything over my behaviour, quote. In June 2004, Watts was diagnosed with throat cancer despite having quit smoking in the late 80s and underwent a course of radiotherapy, and it later went into remission. And here's the quote. I went into hospital, Watts recalled, and 8 months later Mick said, we're going to do a record, but we'll only do it when you're ready. They were buggering about writing songs, and when I was ready, I went down and that was it. A Bigger Bang, that was that album. Then I did a 2-year tour. Seems that whenever we stop, I get ill, so maybe I should carry on. There you go. Dry wit, and there you go. All right, so there it is. Most recently, he had to sit out the upcoming tour. Had Steve Jordan coming in. Steve Jordan's a gun, oh my, and all that. But sadly, we all know what's happened this week. So we don't know what's going to happen with that tour now. We'll see what goes on. So this is my tribute to dear Charlie Watts. And there you have it. I'll have this up. I'll get to work now, and I will have it on the Facebookeries and the YouTuberies tomorrow. Maybe I could do it late tonight. I don't know it. I don't want to rush myself. I can't do all-nighters anymore. I'm done. I'm cooked, mate, cooked. And what it is then up on Dear Channel 31 next Wednesday at 10 p.m. And as well as that, hopefully a few guests as well to be announced. You'll see. There you go. All right. So there it is. Just remember this. Just remember him doing this. All night long. There you go. Thank you for watching. My name's Chris Quinlan, Melbourne Musos, dedicated to our dear Charlie Watts. Take care.